Hey everyone, welcome to the Torah Matinee Shir. It's once again a special edition. I heard last night that my dad died. So, that kind of thing happens. It was by natural causes, meaning it wasn't coronavirus related. And, my dad had a long life. He's a good guy. It seems like he didn't suffer in the end, and so it is. Um, and I'm an Orthodox Jew, right? Obviously, I give a shear on crazy sources, and so um, one of the, I asked this question a long time ago, and now it's come to fruition. Is that when a person converts to Judaism, um, are they required to say Kaddish? Do they sit Shiva? Like we have certain relationships for which a person's required to do to mourn in a certain way as a Jew. But I don't have a hiyuv. I don't have an obligation um, to mourn. But I asked, can I? And my first rabbi, my teacher, Rabbi Daniel Karapkin, he said, if you need to, you can. So that's the life of the ger. If you need to, you can. I've done a lot of work around this issue, of my father. I had a lot of resentments for a long time, and um, and I did, I worked the steps around it. I mean, there was a, fourth step, fifth step. I did a ninth step. I made amends and had peace in my heart, and then in the last year or so, I've been using the adult child of alcoholics, format, and I was actually doing an ACA fourth step, and so um, I had wrapped my head around, you know, all of that, and I learned to love and forgive, and that's a beautiful, beautiful thing, and I'm glad I did it. Um, but we can't speak for timing in this world, and it looks like for me that that all works out, and what I can do for my dad um, is I can dedicate this learning, to my father, to Don Ben Fred, you know, and may his neshama get an aliyah, and we can all know that Hashem is the only true judge. All right then, right, weiter. So it's Parsha SHEMINI. Well, it was Parsha SHEMINI, and this is the Torah Matinee Shir. And so what I do is I review, what I learned during Shabbat. I have a lot of time to learn on Shabbat, and that's a beautiful thing. And so, during the week, sometimes it's hard to put a drash together, before, that's the best way to do it. But, you know, um, I like to do a review. I'm kind of an introspective sort, and I don't know. It works for me in a Torah matinee shir format. So it's kind of interesting that the thing I had chosen to speak about was, death. We see this week the death of Nadav and Avihu, the sons of Aaron the Kohen, and it happens on the day of the inauguration of the Mishkan. And and the passage that struck me is when Moshe, he says to Aaron, he says, I knew that the Mishkan would be consecrated to somebody who is just dear to Hashem, and uh, and I just figured it was going to be either you or me, And so from this, we can see, that your sons were greater than either of us. So that's a nice thing to say. And Aaron was silent. Okay, so that's the pasuk. And so why did Nadav and Avihu die? Well, the simple pshat is they brought a strange fire on the day of the inauguration, and they used this fire to burn incense. That's it. That's their sin. So yeah. So Rabbi Dessler in this great book, Strive for Truth, I reach for Rabbi Dessler a lot. He summarizes the sins of Nadav and Avihu, right? And we're gonna run through them, but quickly. We could go on and on and on about such things. But our basic question is, how can two people who are just full of sins still be an archetype, thousands of years later? Like, what do we learn from people's sins? Okay, so that's the point of Nadav and Avihu, and so we're going to run through the sins according to Rav Dessler, right? So Rav Dessler, he brings 10 here, and the first is that they decided amongst themselves, right? They didn't ask their teacher. They decided amongst themselves what to do. So the second thing is that they entered into the Kodesh HaKodeshim, right? They went into the holy places and the holy place, and they didn't have permission to do that. The third was that they brought an offering that they weren't even asked to bring. It was voluntary. And 4, they brought a strange fire, meaning it was their own fire, right? Moshe Rabbeinu wanted them to use the fire that was going to descend from heaven, but it hadn't descended yet. They jumped the gun. 6, they entered into the Kodesh HaKodeshim after drinking wine. 7, they entered into the Kodesh HaKodeshim without even having on the proper garments. They didn't have on the me'il of the Kohen Gadol, for instance. 8, they weren't married. 9, they looked forward to the time that Moshe and Aaron would die and they would lead the generation. Okay, that one's kind of heavy. That's a midrash. Yeah. And then 10, they feasted their eyes on the glory of the Shekhinah, which they beheld at Har Sinai at the giving of the Torah. Okay, so these are their sins. Well, all right. So Rav Dessler says that there's a common thread that ties them all together, right? Was that they appeared to be aware of their greatness, that there was a level of humility that was lacking, and this led to all the other things, right? So the rabbi asks a question here, and it's a good question, and that's what we're going to look into, is how can a person be held responsible for what occurs at a subconscious level? Okay? So the sins of Nadav and Avihu can be tied back to pride. And how can a person be held accountable to things that happen at a subconscious level? Okay, so that's what, there we go. So, yeah, that's what we're going to be looking at. And so in order to do that, we're going to reach to something to confuse the issue. I share with you whatever I'm learning at the time. I don't know, and I tie it all together. But my words are really just the glue that holds together the concepts and the deeper ideas that that I learned from Chazal. I just give it over. And so I happen to be holding at a place in the Daf Yomi, our daily our study of Talmud that we do every day, and and the Mishnah that I'm learning right now, um, it says that that we can't place a utensil under a lamp to catch the dripping oil. But if he places the tray under the lamp while it's still daytime, then the oil is permissible. So what does that even mean, right? What does that even mean? So there's an explanation. I mean, there's tons of explanations about such things. It's probably going to hover around something like the oil has a purpose before Shabbat. Like, say you're going to use it for cooking. Okay, so fine, use it for that. But we don't cook on Shabbat. And besides, if the oil had a candle lit in it for Shabbat, then clearly the oil is for Shabbat candles. It's not for cooking, and you can't cook anyway. So if you catch that oil, it's just useless. It was a useless gesture. Nothing will be accomplished, and so so it's forbidden. Don't do it. Period. So right, so that's the kind of complexity within which I live, and it just goes on and on and on, and I chose this life and I love it, and I just learn halachos, and do them. It's a beautiful thing, and some people just would think that that's crazy, But my situation is that I left up to my own decision-making processes. I'll do really weird, whacked out things, and a lot of the time I don't really know the right thing to do, and so I reach to proven external sources to help me, and I wasn't always Jewish. I was like 31 or something when I first opened the Torah, and I saw many truths in it, and just just had to run with it, and I find that the Torah lifestyle is a good guideline for me, and it helps me. And it's the same thing by the 12-step groups. It's the traditions and the steps are things that are bigger than me. They're outside of me. They help me and they direct me, and my friends there help me, and it's a good thing. And so when if there's something in that I learn in Jewish law that's confusing or something that seems irrelevant, well, it doesn't have anything to do with me. It just is. It's a bigger thing, and my place in it is defined, um, and I live my life, and so we've been talking about guarding the eyes, about guarding guarding our heart, and trying to direct ourselves toward bigger and better things, not being allowed to bog ourselves down by the things that separate us from our higher power, the things that I've been talking about that and call idol worship, the thing that that I blame coronavirus on, that we allow things to separate us from God, and so one of the ways that I connect to God is through music, and those who know me, I'm just like way old school punk. Like in the 70s, you know, uh, that music just changed my life and a lot of people's lives. And I still listen to punk rock. Like if I have a deadline, and I'm sitting at the computer and, it's late at night. Nothing really gets me in the mood like, the kid with the replaceable head or, Marquee Moon. But then there's other times, man. There's other times, and I listen to Kedusha music, and what this is people take things from the prayer book. They'll take things from, a pasuk from Tehillim, or from the Chumash, and put it to music, and there's a song that's just been stuck in my mind lately, and it's just so beautiful. And my Hebrew is just horrible, and but I've come to many understandings, over the years, and I just love this song. It goes, Ana Bakoak, Gadulat Yamanecho, Tatir Serura. And it just goes on and on and on and on. But this song, it says, please, God, with the power of your great right hand, free the captive. So that's been the theme all for this whole week. Pesach, coming out of Pesach, Parsha SHEMINI, Nadav Avihu. That we can learn to just overcome ourselves and just let the good things happen. That we're surrounded by sadness, we're surrounded by things we don't want, and things we don't need. But it's important to remember that we're surrounded by things that we love and that we do want and that we do need. And it's important to just know that life is good and life has a purpose and life has meaning. And that's enough. All right. Hazaka Baruch. I hope you have a good week and only good things by you.